Okay, thank you so much for joining us on the Welcome to We show. My name is Rick Ulfik, and I'm the founder of We the World and the We campaign at we.net. We the World is a global coalition building organization with 11 campaigns for change. You can take action with us by going to we.net. We have 3 goals: to inspire, inform, and involve you and millions of people around the world in creating a world that works for all. That's 3 I's: inspire, inform, and involve. 3 I's that make a we. So we can go from a me society to a we society. Today we have some extraordinary guests. Jacob Gordon from the United Nations Association, Gainesville, Florida. Diyonne McGraw, Martin Luther King Commission of Florida. Helen Warren from the Interfaith Climate Group. And Kwanda Ja, the chair of the NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice Committee. Angie, Terrell, Star Center Theater. And Erin, Garrett, who is We the World's Policy, Advocacy, and Town Hall Conversations Director. So let's now bring in my co-host, Sueblyth, who will give us an overview of today's show. Sueblyth coordinates We the World's campaign for the environment. She is the founder of the Climate Collaboratory, a pilot project of We the World and the University of Florida Extension. Welcome to the broadcast, Sueblyth.
Thank you, Rick Ulfik. It's really a pleasure and a privilege to be here today to bring together some of the people that I've been hoping would one day be involved in our community-wide climate conversation to action program. And so we've been what we call building community in a changing climate with a number of different organizations, the Interfaith Climate Group, the Elders Climate Action, and helping to create lots of ways that people can support what we call a collaborative storytelling adventure. And we figure everybody has a climate story to tell if they're living on this planet at this time. And we together as a human family are telling and living the climate story that will be told for many generations to come. So I'm really pleased to introduce Dr. Jacob Gordon, who is the president of the United Nations Association of Gainesville, Florida. And he is going to he's going to help us understand about the blueprint for a better future. Welcome to the We Show, Dr. Gordon.
Thank you, Sue. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm so happy to be here with you all to share some views. As you know, the United Nations was established in 1945. We are celebrating the 76th anniversary this year. And the theme is creating a blueprint for a better future, indeed a better future. We are celebrating it October 24 here in Gainesville. And we are put together with a good team to look into the sustainable goals of the United Nations. As you know, they were approved by the UN in 2015. There are 17 of them. Of these observers, we are going to focus on 4 of them: climate, education, security, and public health. These 17 are as follows. 1 is to have no hunger, no poverty. And 3, good health and well-being. 4, quality education. Number 5, gender equality. Number 6, clean water. and sanitation. Number 7, affordable and clean energy. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. Number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Number 10, reduce inequity. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. Number 12, responsible consumption and production. Number 13, climate action. 14, life below water. 15, life on land. 16, peace and justice. Number 17, partnership to achieve these goals. I always like to summarize these sustainable goals in 5 P's. First is people. Second, the planet. The third, prosperity. The fourth, peace. And the fifth, partnership. It's a very simple way to understand what we are committed to. That is to create sustainable communities with good environment. I look forward to your joining us on October 24. It's going to be on Sunday. It's a virtual program. You can always connect with it. We have a website, UNA USA, right here in Gainesville, and be a part of this process. And I want to thank you so much for the invitation.
Wonderful, thank you. And these 17 goals that you've described are part of our focus for the community-wide climate conversation. And our focus definitely is goal number 13, climate action. But we figure that it takes all of those. We can't have a sustainable planet without addressing all of those global goals. And so we're grateful to work with the United Nations Association on meeting those, making sure that we get to meet some of the people who are addressing them here in Gainesville. So I wanted to welcome Diyonne McGraw, who is with the Martin Luther King Commission of Florida, which is also in Gainesville, Florida. And I know that, Diyonne, you have the Martin Luther King Week coming up in January, and you have community-wide events for all ages on the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. And many of these address those 17 sustainable development goals. So let's hear about how, what you have planned for January.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for all that you're doing, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. As she said, I am Diyonne McGraw. I'm the Vice President of the MLK Commission, and I'll just tell you briefly, since 1984, the Martin Luther King Commission has been around here in Alachua County promoting and advocating for poverty. We want to eliminate poverty, racism, and social justice. That was our theme with social justice last year. As you know, we are in the planning stages right now for beginning the second week in January. But we haven't finalized everything. We have not finalized our theme, but as you know, every year we're going to have, especially one of the things I love the most, we want to make sure we can have our MLK Commemorative March, because that reminds us of what Dr. King was all about. And we talk about how we work with our children. And one of the things we've given, over $200 and some thousand since 1985 in scholarships to deserving high school students here in Alachua County. Our banquet, we talk about our banquet, and one of the things I love about the banquet, because it is a time to hear from Rodney, our president, who has worked so hard in keeping the dream of Dr. King alive. When you talk about the banquet, it's a time for us to reflect, and we know what we provide is an opportunity to hear the truth, speaking truth to power. That's what we try to do. And, last year, when you talk about the social justice workshop that Bronson Martin, who chairs that, to talk about racism, and to talk about poverty and where we are today. You know, this is a discussion we're in now. What are we really going to focus on? As you know, right here in Alachua County, one of the biggest things we are concerned about now is all of the shootings that are taking place with our young people. And Dr. King, that's not what we did things nonviolence. We protested nonviolently, but our children are in a position now, and given the atmosphere of COVID, attitudes and how people are living, and all of that has affected you mentally, some people spiritually, and now we're losing our children. So that's a discussion we're having now, is for the upcoming in part of our events. How do we make a difference? And we also have our kickoff, you know, as usual. We also have our national holiday program. And part of the 2 weeks, and you know, about 10 years ago, we moved to 2 weeks because it's important that we take our time and share the legacy of Dr. King. So, you know, you can look forward to the complete event, you know, by sometime in November, we will have our complete activities, but it's the same activities we have every year. But I do know one of the things we're in big discussion about is the violence that has increased here in Alachua County. And so what we want to make sure we do is that we provide the 3 E's through the Martin Luther King Commission, which is experience, education, experience, and exposure. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And I've enjoyed being part of the Martin Luther King commemorations through the years. And my goodness, you've got, I know the whole community gets involved.
Oh,
and
yes.
that's what I love about it. And so being able to just make that, I guess what we're trying to do is shine a light on the people
Yes.
who are already doing things for these sustainable development goals.
Yeah.
And I would say
And-
every single person who is hosting an event during those 2 weeks.
And I look forward. And I just want to share too, right quick, didn't mean to cut you off. Helen Warren, she has been invited to our meeting for Thursday to come and participate and share more about we and the building community, and so that we can make sure we are collaborating and making sure we're all going in the right direction. Because I would tell you, right before I came on this show, I was over at a property, cleaning my property, and a little girl got shot right on 16th that you ought to hear more about on the news. A car just rolled by. I thought it was coming in my place, my husband and I. About 9 shots went off and the little girl was shot in the chest. And I prayed that she would, and right now she is still surviving. But this wise is so important that we collaborate. And so I am glad to be here this evening. So as we move forward, we have to collaborate, build our community, and try to stop some of this violence that continues to happen with our children. Thank you again.
Yes,
Thank
and I just wanted to say thank you for that work that you're doing. And as Sue will know what I'm talking about, we have a big MLK program that we're doing in January and February, and it extends actually to the end of February. So we call it Manifesting the Dream.
Okay.
So it's about carrying forward the work and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. in all of these areas. And every area that you're talking about, we want to promote what you're doing to a global audience, because what you're doing locally can be a model for what's going on in many other places around the country and around the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So you mentioned Helen Warren, and I'd like to bring her in to talk a little about what is happening with our Interfaith Climate Group. We're building community in a changing climate, and she has been instrumental in helping to raise awareness in the city of Gainesville, especially. And Helen, why don't you tell us about some of your background and activities?
Thanks a lot, Sue. Well, I've got to say that since I met Sue, we've been putting our head together talking about how do we reach a broader part of the community and get this message to those who aren't the ones that are usually in the room. Previously, was honored to be an elected official as a city commissioner for 2 terms, 3 years on each term. And what I learned from that is that a lot of people either expect you to do everything as a government or nothing. And I realized that what we're missing are the individual's contributions, because the government can't do it all. And I would share stories with members of the business community and people of faith over the last 6 years. And the conversation was basically, you know, if government's not going to do it, who will? And there's an excellent model that Bill Moyers did in a conversation in 1990 at Middleburg in Vermont, just talking about how our religious doctrines guide us in taking care of the planet. And Sue and I started talking about that model and just felt like this would be the vehicle, you know, the platform to bring people together. And looking at, Sue had been able to go to a conference in Atlanta a couple of years ago that was on the theme of Martin Luther King's World House. And when she shared the information about that, and of course, you know, so much of what Martin Luther King had talked about was acting locally, but he was very much recognizing that what we do locally, we have to do on the global level. And so looking up the information that was there on the internet about Martin Luther King's World House, Sue and I discovered, you know, there's a curriculum already there. We don't have to go inventing it. We just need to provide it and open the doors and invite the community in to have these conversations. And to do that as an interfaith exchange, just as Sue and I mean, we've been talking about this for 3 or 4 months, and every time we talk, it just would grow. And I've been sharing the information about this idea in the community, and it's growing. It's been well supported, you know, and people will just say things like, you know, this conversation is valuable. And when we talk about climate change, just all those things that come under climate change, and in our community especially, because we're so high on elevation, people are coming to this community, moving here for getting away from coastal areas or areas where it snows too much. And the way to prepare for these future demands that the climate's going to provide, we need to have a better community that communicates, talks with each other. And Diyonne, with what you're saying about what the youth are doing in another shooting, you know, there's an article in the paper today, a lot of what's behind the youth getting down that path is that they don't have enough other good things to be doing. And I know COVID has really put so many barriers up on the usual activities. But I think what we're seeing with this COVID experience, pandemic, is that it's going to be around, and we need to learn how to move forward safely and protect each other, get vaccinated. But we really need to show the strength of the community in working together. So I've talked with the chamber today. I talked with the Rotary. There's just, I keep reaching out, and we want to start it in December. And it's just have a monthly conversation, bring people together to talk about different topics of the 17 UN sustainability goals. And I could talk for the rest of my life.
Thank you, Helen. And you were part of the city of Gainesville actually declaring a climate emergency, right?
I was approached by a member in the community to do that. And when I read the article that was provided in an email to introduce him, I had been involved with the Audubon chapters in St. Petersburg and here. So I know the environmental conversation. I've been up to Washington, D.C., talking to our congressmen and senators and advocating for the policies to provide clean air. But when Greg Undine approached me to see if the city would make a proclamation that we're in a climate emergency, I was just like, You don't have to tell me the science about it, just tell me what we need to do. And in 2 weeks, we presented it to the city commission, and there was a unanimous agreement to have the city make that proclamation. And by the end of, in December, we made that proclamation. And that will be my greatest, I don't want to, well, greatest joy that I was able to have that, because after that, when I got off the commission, I met Sue, and I've been involved with other formats of getting this message and having conversations with people. But what I continue to see is it's the same people who show up at these Zoom meetings. And we have so much going on here that we have tried in the city of Gainesville to get more solar fields to feed into the electric grid system so that we can reduce the biofuels that are otherwise being used to produce electricity. And we have a lot of conversations. We have a lot of work to do.
Indeed, indeed. And it's a joy to work with you and the others that have been involved in this climate conversation as it's been evolving over the last couple of years. And I wanted to just share the quote from Dr. King that inspired this World House project. And it says, and this was from his Nobel Peace Prize lecture, "We have inherited a big house, a great world house in which we have to live together, Black and white, Easterners and Westerners, Gentiles and Jews, Catholics and Protestants, Muslim and Hindu, a family unduly separated in ideas, culture, and interests, who, because we can never again live without each other, must learn somehow in this one big world, live with each other." And so that's the goal. And if we can have conversations around the community, especially in January and February, related to how these global goals are being addressed in our community and what else needs to be done, and making action plans that we can carry out together. That's our goal. And so some of the other, well, I wanted to add also that here from the University of Florida, we have a trumpet concerto that was written about, that's called the World House Concerto. And it is in collaboration with the Morehouse College Martin Luther King Library, I guess, and their Glee Club. And they've put together this concert that involves the whole community. And that was the curriculum, I think, that Helen was referring to, that is a way of involving people through music and bringing together people who are singing. So what we've been doing, and starting in September, we invited people who are already singing songs of peace. And we had a gathering at a little park and sang songs of peace on the International Day of Peace in September. And so that's the kind of gathering that we hope to encourage through music, bringing people together, offering some of these songs that we can learn together, and continue that as a way of involving more people in our climate conversation. I wanted to introduce Erin Garrett, who is here from We the World. And Erin has a wonderful seed idea. We call these seed ideas growing in the gardens of global unity, where all things are possible. So that's the idea of what we are growing. And one of the seed ideas is to have town hall meetings. And so, Erin, maybe you can come in and tell us about what how these town hall meetings work. And I know this is a dream of Rick's for quite some time, and you're going to help us figure out how to bring people together for town hall meetings.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. So I'm new to We the World and working on policy and advocacy efforts. And one of the ideas that I first heard about was this dream of having a monthly town hall. And I think that's something that's really important is this conversational piece of coming together to work on something, because oftentimes we see in people who mean well and want to make change, perhaps acting without first really tapping into communities, both locally and globally, to figure out what needs to be done. So with these town halls, the hope is to center them around big events. So like Martin Luther King Month and Earth Month, Women's Day, and to gather people from the local to the global and have people come together to brainstorm, share, and inspire each other regarding certain issues that we can work on. And it's something that we want to be visionary and that people can feel free to share their goals and what individuals or local nonprofits or other groups are working on, but also ways to share concrete feedback. So we have some big dreams at We the World that we want to do in 2022, but I think this will be a great opportunity to put out those ideas and hear from people. Is that the right thing to be doing? Are we doing it the right way? What are you doing in this line of thought? And so that kind of collaborative back and forth is the hopeful end product. And that's coming in the next couple months. And we just want to have people from all over the network, all over the world, from different walks of life and different work to come together and collaborate on these ideas.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And Rick, maybe you would like to explain your vision of how this might work with the town hall meetings.
Sure, and it's exactly what Erin was just saying, and it kind of is like what our goal is with 11 Days of Global Unity, which takes place in September, from September 11th, culminating on September 21st, the International Day of Peace. So the idea is local action, but global participation. So this idea of people focused locally, you know, like they say, all politics is local, and then sharing that and knowing that your local actions are part of something that's happening around the world and in other communities. And so this idea of the town halls, you can start with local town halls, but eventually the idea would be to have town halls where you have leaders from specific areas, regions, let's say, or localities and regions, but then meeting with other leaders from other localities and regions and sharing, you know, what's working here. You know, we have a particular problem here, maybe something could be a solution that has been developed in one area and then adopted in other areas. So so it's like taking the idea of a local town hall and blowing it up so that you can have multiple town halls even during the same day.
And I think something just to add to what Rick was saying with local being connected globally is something to be grateful for is how we do have this technology to bring people together, and it's become more efficient and thankfully safer. And we can really put faces to people and really get more directly democratic in how we think about change and the types of advocacy and policy changes we want to make. And so I think that using platforms like this that everyone has become so accustomed to is really going to bolster participation and bolster idea sharing and make everything move faster and more smoothly.
Exactly. And things like participatory budgeting, which is a very powerful concept for engaging people in the process of municipal budgeting, that can be facilitated through town hall meetings, which would be different from the usual like talking heads where you have leaders talking and it's like the audience is just watching. But this idea of the town halls, even if it's on Zoom or on virtual platforms, it can allow people to have their own voices be heard in ways that haven't maybe happened as much as we would like. And that gets to the democracy aspect that Erin is talking about. So thank you.
So I see we have two more friends that came in who have wonderful voices to bring into this conversation. We talked about the music coming in. I'm going to save Angie Terrell for the grand finale of this presentation because she's working on something wonderful. But I want to introduce.
Sue,
Yes,
Sue, may I interject?
please.
I'm in the middle of an audition, and
Oh, that's right.
And if you wouldn't mind, I wanted
Yes.
to share and get back to that. Otherwise, hopefully on the next gathering, I will be free.
Okay,
of my
yes, I forgot.
responsibilities. Yes.
Thank you for speaking up. So Angie has been just totally involved in getting people together to work on a special project. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, first of all, I just want to shout out and say, Sue, this vision that you had over 20 years ago, it is coming into fruition. I'm glad that we're gathered here today to talk about aspects of it, but not only that, is to put it into action. I want to share with this group that at our last meeting of those who are gathering from the Gainesville area, we're working on the in-person presentation doing Earth, the month that we celebrate Earth Day. And we're planning on putting this huge finale program together on April 23rd, am I right?
Well, sometime during Earth Month.
Sometime during Earth Month, let's say it that way. At our last meeting, we were able to get some more people to come and sit at the table who can help with the in-person activities. Some things that Sue had asked for were script writers or advisors for the stage play. And on that particular call and Zoom presentation, people stepped up to the plate. I'm hoping at our next meeting, which should be tomorrow, that they will be reporting on things that they're going to bring to the table to make this a great event. Something else that she asked for was for directors, songwriters, directors, advisors. All of these things are needed for this production that we're putting on. They've done a good job with Act 1 and working on Act 2. And as we get ready to get to the heart of the matter, these entities are coming together to add to the playwriting and to the scripting and that kind of thing. And then finally, when they put it all together, we're going to have this awesome presentation that was a part of a vision. It is a part of a vision of Sue's. There's something else she's doing. I think it's a game show. So all of these activities are going to take place between now and Earth Day. And I heard them talking about the Martin Luther King presentation in January. We're kind of working with Sue on that to try to find singers here locally, as well as either an orchestra or instrumental players that can at least play a movement or some part of that Earth Day arrangement and orchestral arrangement, as well as get singers to do that. When that product was first created at Digital Worlds, Star Center was a part of that. And so we've had an opportunity to sing that number for James at the inception. He came to one of our summer camps and rounded up students, and that was such a great experience for them. So as we move to January, we want to look over Gainesville and find people to participate in that again. In closing, I'd like to say that this is an awesome project. I'm so glad to be a part of it. And as all of us come together to make this world that we live in a better place and to leave a legacy and a safe and productive earth for those that are following us for years to come. Thank you, Sue, for inviting me.
Thank you, Angie, for being here and sharing that. Angie is with the Star Center Theater and works with children in schools, and is just, it's such a joy to see you light up with the possibilities that this program offers. It's really wonderful. Thank you for everything you do.
No problem.
And then I'd like to talk with Barbara McDade Gordon, who's here, and she's the other half of the Dr. Gordon twosome. And Barbara, we have, you are involved in this developing play that we've been kind of bringing out in bits and pieces on our Welcome to We show. And we're trying to put it together as Climate Collaboratory, the musical. And I know that you are really involved with so many different organizations in the community. And maybe you can tell us a little about how you see this community-wide climate conversation going.
Thank you, Sue. Yes, I was really happy to get involved with Sue. I met Sue a couple of, oops, I think we have 2 computers on. I met Sue a couple of years ago at the NAACP climate conference, and it was very interesting. And this musical, I think it's just such a great idea. It's fun, with Angie being in a part of it, with the Star Center Theater. The children, they do such wonderful events. And Angie, I think we're gonna, venture out now that we've got our booster shots and get over there pretty soon. I was talking to a colleague today who said he went, Anthony Green. But the musical, I am just so looking forward to that and getting it together. My contribution was to add an exclamation point to Climate Collaboratory, the musical. And I'm really looking forward to working with that and seeing it come to fruition, especially since Sue's thing has been from the start to involve all generations in this Climate Collaboratory. So from children, youth, and let's say young adults like Erin, and as well as older adults, because we are all vested in keeping our environment sustainable. So thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to just share a little bit of what our kids are doing. That this is a this is the Climate Collaboratory giving an urgent call to the Minecrafters at Alachua County Public Schools. We have 5 middle schools in Alachua County, and the teachers of the technology classes are helping their students to build a Minecraft world. So here's what we put together with the Alvarez children, who are kind of our spokespeople for this climate collaborative. So let me show you what this is about.
It's called Red for Humanity. The planet is getting way too warm. The tree of life is in danger, and many species are going extinct. We must escape this climate calamity.
We're looking for secret agents of compassion. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to create a place where kids can practice making a world that works for all living things. Then we kids can help the grown-ups do what it takes in the real world. We need to build a Minecraft world that looks like the Earth Charter game board. We need you to build 8 biomes in Minecraft, the communities that make up life on Earth. The 8 biomes are jungle, desert, ocean, savanna, the swamp, the forest, and the city. Your class has 2 weeks to build one biome. Make a short video of a tour of your biome. Pass it to the next school fast. We have to be done by March to play the Earth Flash games in April.
We use the United Nations blueprint for a better future. 17 global goals to make a world that works for all, for 100% of humanity and the community of life on Earth, our home.
We need to win the global goals by 2030 to escape the climate calamity. 2030? That's when I'll graduate from high school.
We're writing a story that you will tell your great-grandchildren many years from now. We have everything we need to make that story a good one. Lots of tools and resources for the global goals, and many, many people who want to help you to make a world that works for all.
They'll help us draw on our own projects, like seed ideas in the garden to global unity, where all things are possible. Okay, secret agents of compassion, will you help us build the Minecraft Earth Flash game?
Will you help us make a world that works for all for many generations to come?
You know you'll say yes. Ask your teacher what comes next.
Remember, we have to be done by March to play the Earth Flash games in April. You can do it. 2 weeks at a time. Sorry. Okay, starting again. So that's our game part of this is getting kids involved in the schools to work on the global goals in a fun way and hopefully get their parents involved. And so that's one really exciting way that we're working on this community-wide climate conversation to action program. And I want to mention that making those action plans is really a critical piece. This group is working on the game element, but there's many, and we of course have our town halls. That's an action plan that needs to be fleshed out. We have our musical, which is an action plan. All of these are seed ideas and helping them to grow. Diyonne, I wanted to just mention that one of the joys of my life was going to a youth program during Martin Luther King week. It was several years ago now, but seeing Rodney Long and his son as the MCs of this show that
The talent show.
inspired me. So maybe you could just imagine what it would be like to really make this part of our King Week activities with those global goals.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sue, we'll be glad at UNA to disseminate this kind of product when you finish it. As you know, UNA has about 200 chapters all over the country with more than 20,000 members. We're very glad to disseminate this kind of information. Earlier, I forgot to mention that our keynote speaker on October 24 is going to be the president of Santa Fe College, Dr. Paul Brody. He'll be our keynote speaker, yes.
And I believe that Santa Fe College, at one point, I hope they're still doing it, had each one of their courses identify the sustainable development goal that course addressed. And that's one way that we can help educate everyone about these things.
Yes.
So I'd like to open it up now to just say, here we are, we have all these possibilities before us, and I want to know what are some other things that you see as possibilities in Alachua County and the world?
I would like to add that, seeing what Angela has done with her students and what Diyonne and Barbara have done in the community. I feel like a big thing that what we're not getting enough of the conversation is with us being in a position of a climate emergency, how many ways we could be engaging our students of every grade level and looking at different issues that they can be fully engaged in helping find the solutions. And, you know, there's food waste. We have an excellent recycling program, but we have so many houses that don't participate in sorting their recyclables and how that contributes into our land waste. So I really feel like engaging the youth and letting individuals see how the education can really, you know, have the youth participating in the community. Whereas I feel we're suffering from too many decades of isolating the students from the learning process in the community where they live. And there are so many ways from the time a student works, an individual walks from home to the school and home again, that they see things that are problems and they could be a solution, whether it's an older person who just needs somebody to say hello or help take care of their lawn. But that's a community conversation. I'm really excited about that as a seed, an opportunity that when we as people are helping other, we are the best people.
I think to talk more, oh, sorry, is that Rick?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment on what you just said, Helen, because I'm aware, you probably know about the Roots and Shoots youth program of the Jane Goodall Institute. So Roots and Shoots are one of the things that you know, we have partnered with them for many years, and in conversations, one of the things that they have been doing is this idea of community mapping. And it sounds like that's a perfect fit for exactly what you're talking about, where they get the young people to go through the community and actually map out the different aspects of the community that fit in, that have certain needs that other parts of the community don't have, and you know, and other, you know, identifying problems like you were talking about, and kids could be part of that, as you said, like when they're just walking back to and from school. So it just made perfect
when you say
sense.
something like that, I think of something that when I found out that in math, when you talk about A plus B equals C, it didn't have to be a number, but it could be if a person doesn't have food and they don't have housing, their life is not very happy, you know? And so those problems do have solutions. And I've just seen so many young people that have just inspired me when they have seen and they have participated in helping to find solutions in the community around them.
Well, I was going to say that at this moment in history, I think it's such a fantastic time to capitalize on the interest that young people and children have, because they know that they're being affected by the upcoming climate catastrophe and they want to do something about it. And now that we're all living through this pandemic, they're even more exposed to other connected issues like economic justice, housing security, food insecurity, and they're very ready to help and they're very ready to jump in. And so in these crises, it's a time to reach out and say that children absolutely have a place in these decision-making processes and these conversations. And so I think there is a whole generation that's just so receptive to being involved. So it's just a great time to jump in on that.
And let me say this, Sue, if I can, and one of the things, you know, before, of course, I was interrupted with the school board thing, but still working on the Enough is Enough campaign, because part of what we have to do is we as a school system have to provide more opportunities, and we know what you have to be strategic. Like I'll give you, for example, what we're doing, like say the links with Lake Forest now. We've been having meetings via Zoom. We're being trained on their FLY curriculum, where we'll be coming in from October to March to help the school system with training and making sure kids can read. We have to do a better job of opening up and having opportunities to hear from our students. And one of the things we were in the process of doing is having the student representative. You can have a representative for middle school. If we provide, like say these organizations that we have to start allowing people to come in. And with COVID, we may have to limit it to 1 or 2 people from that organization coming in, going through the volunteer, but we can get more. And the thing is, when you talk about Helen mentioning those kids who struggle with housing, who really struggle, that's why that inner circle, as far as social workers, mental health counselors, are so important, because we need to identify those children. It's not a matter of singing those children out, but we need to identify those children and have a circle of support, including the community, with those children. That is extremely important, because our kids, what is very dangerous and what people don't realize, a lot of our children don't have coping skills. They do not have coping skills. And so when we set them up, we can be setting them up for failure because you don't have the right circle of support. And that's why the social work and the mental health piece is so important. And we have to really focus on that. COVID is important. It's a mask. We need a mask. But right now, our kids, and we're struggling 2 years behind almost now with these children. And so part of what we have to do is to be strategic, dealing with COVID, but in small groups, small volunteers coming in to help the whole family.
Yes.
Is what in hearing from the children on what they're struggling with. And so when you identify what the issues are, that's why parent intake, along with that child who's really struggling, part of my Enough is Enough campaign is so important, because if you know what you're dealing with, you will be able to refer the right things to the table. But you need to hear from the people who are dealing with those situations every day.
So let me call your attention to Sustainable Development Goal 11, which calls for sustainable cities and communities. Now, all I know in studying history and everything else, you cannot do that without involving our educational and cultural institutions. That's the foundation. But having said that, education begins at home. There are global classroom programs all over, developed by UN, by UNA, all over the world, that we can introduce into our school system. The question is there the will to implement it? We know what works. The question is, can we implement what we know works, that is evidence-based? Education works from K to 12. And that's why we have been struggling for the teaching of African-American history for years. And we finally got there, we're getting there, through the exemplary status that was given to us by the state. It was hard work. People started working on this in the 1990s, long before I got here. But let's keep working on it. We are working towards a more perfect society. It's not perfect.
Well, Dr. Gordon, what you're saying about that, I'm thinking about how, you remember a couple of years ago, the schools in Hawthorne were really struggling. And how did the community respond? The members of the community came together and started providing tutoring and mentoring. And I think this is, again, a thing of like, maybe the separation of state and church has been a separation of state and community. And we need to find a way to reconnect back with our role that the government is us.
Yes.
And how we participate, it just can be, it can be a win-win for everybody. I've got a couple of families that I'm working with, and yeah, sometimes it's a long day, but you know, when it's such a reward. It is such a reward in itself.
Yes.
And these schools, instead of having an after-school program where the kids are at school and then we have to worry about finding a way for them to get home, I can think of some of the apartment complexes where a lot of these students are living. Imagine if we use their community resource room in the daytime to find a way to make a connection with the families somehow, the parents. But in the evening, if we showed some of the PBS shows, or, there's so many documentaries and science things that we could show, and then just have a conversation with the kids about it and be there in those community rooms. We could have tutors. And I've talked to some of the directors of those apartment complexes, and their biggest thing is that this COVID has just put us off. But again, we have got to find a way to move on with COVID over our shoulder in a safe way. Because otherwise, there's just this isolation, and it's kind of like, that is really the challenge. How do we find a way to build this community together under the pedicle of this pandemic? I hope that we will be stronger as a community, but at what point do we feel safe doing things with each other?
I'd like to just put in another seed idea while we're on this, that we are part of a global family. What we say using the Earth Charter, which is another document that we use with this program. The Earth Charter says we are one human family and one Earth community with a common destiny. And so, as we said earlier, we're trying to tell the story of the whole human family coming through this climate crisis. And actually, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could report that in the year 2050, for the 50th anniversary of the Earth Charter, we could celebrate the Earth's temperature coming back down? That's a story I want to tell and figure out how to make that happen. And that's what I see happening with these global goals and getting this conversation going in the community. And there's a program at the University of Florida called Florida Connected. And the idea there is that classrooms or community groups like you're talking about, Helen, have their own little conversation, and they connect with a classroom or community group in another country. And so this is getting to that global education that Dr. Gordon was talking about, and just making that connection with our global family and making it a normal part of life for our young people. And we also have a program in Gainesville called the Sister City Program. And I'm not sure how many sister cities we have. I think it's 9, maybe.
We have 9, and
9.
we're trying to get one in Ghana. That's something that we're working on now.
And so that would be a natural to connect with our global family in those sister cities. Anyway, that's the kind of global education that I want to bring into our local climate conversation.
I would just like to, underline what Diyonne said about working closely with where the students live. This is something, when I was working with the Upward Bound program, we had several apartment managers who came to us and said they really wanted to do something for the students, for the residents in their apartments, because that's where the kids, and like I said, this COVID is just like changing things, but we're still alive and we're still living. And we still have things to do. It's just, this is another thing, even though it's impacting so much. But that certainly is where we can look to where people are. And I bet parents would really be amenable to having these apartment that have the rec rooms or community rooms for to give something to do in the evening. Because, you know, I mean, it's so unfortunate. I haven't heard so much in our community here in Gainesville, but I mean, parents are so stressed out. They are just, you know, I mean, people are killing their kids and all across the country because they're just stressed and they're confined to these little spaces. And that is just something that I think we really do need to address. It's not something that we can welcome or think about, but it's hard to think about, but it is something that we really need to do.
Well, I just think we got to do a better job of we're living in a different time. We have to think outside the box of helping our families. One of the things that I do on a regular basis with the group homes, sometimes I really have to get in and talk to that parent. And those parents sometimes end up volunteering or being court ordered to parenting classes. But you know what? Once they get into the classes and they know that they have this circle of support, they do so much better. They have to come in and train at the group home and we slowly implement home visits so that you rebuild that family. What I'm talking about does take work. And what I'm finding is we have to have more people committed to doing this. And it is. If you are everybody's different in their strength, coping, mentally, spiritually, whatever moves you. But part of what we have to get to do is thinking outside the box. You're going to have to bring in, building that relationship with that parent. Don't be judgmental, because you have to remember a lot of the parents, the children we have now, their parents were also failed by the same educational system. We just have to keep it open, be real about this stuff, and understand that our strategy of first building that relationship. That's why I say it's so important to do that intake. Then you know how to surround social work and mental health. Right now in our schools, and we know it's shorthanded, we have social workers who are coming in maybe part-time, not gonna work. It has to be committed full-time. You can't say, hold on, child, don't have a crisis today because Miss So-and-so won't be at a Friday. We have to make sure that you are providing this on a regular basis because it takes work. It takes work. And what I'm saying, because I deal with intensive behavior every day, it takes work. It may be 6 months to a year before you finally get that family where they need, but they'll work with you. I promise you they will. If they know you're going to stick with them, you're not going to judge them because of the lack of knowledge. That's why the 3 E's are so important: education, experience, exposure. But we have to do a better job. And I know we get tired and we get weary too, but we need more people to step up to the place. And that's why I think the educational system is so important, because it's an opportunity where you have the masses of the children every day, because the majority of your kids are coming to school, or they're going to some charter school or what have you. And so I just want to throw that in, because I think that is a big missing piece of taking these families who are struggling, who don't understand, and really putting them in together by building those relationships. So what Dr. McDade is saying is so true.
Diyonne, what was the program that you mentioned that is doing this kind of work?
Are you talking about the program that I'm
Yes.
doing, or it's through the Agency of Person? I'm in partnership with the Agency of Person with Disabilities.
Okay.
And part of, because I'm an intensive behavior home, I have a lot of people sometimes, once they get to the very intense level, they are mentally ill, substance abuse, along with developmentally disabled. But part of the reason they've gotten to the court system, so part of the good thing is having that relationship with the courts, because there's only so much they can do. But once you talk to the parent, or sometimes when we just have a parent that may not be cooperative, they have been court ordered to some things, and they think I'm being mean at first, But then once I really sit down, it's not easy to have those tough conversations, but once I sit down and really have that tough conversation, they understand, because this is your child. You are the natural support, and I want you to be with the natural support, but it takes a lot of work to do that. And sometimes I may have a little bit of help. But also parents will volunteer if they know you're going to treat them, you're going to show that you can care, people will cooperate. They have to build that relationship of trust, but it takes time to do that. And what I find is we don't have enough patient people, like you say, agents of compassion. I thought about that with the children were saying, it's not enough of that, and it has to be more of that if we're really going to make a difference. Because I look at Youth Bill, I think about Youth Bill all the time. They're doing great because they're doing things outside of the box. That's why the CTE, the different programs and trade, because if I can come to school, and part of it, with the behavior and being able to cope, if a child who's really struggling, whether it's with poverty, like Helen's mentioned, or whatever they're dealing with at home, if they were really interested and engaged in school, you wouldn't see all of the programs that you wouldn't see all of the issues that you have, because they're doing something that they're good at, and you got to take that time out to find out what children are good at. And we have gotten away from that. And that's why you have so many problems, because if I can't read by 3rd grade, I'm going to act out for you. And all it does is I may drop a napkin in elementary school, but by the time I get to middle school, I'm angry and I'm getting stronger and I'm getting stronger. And then that's how they end up in places like me with intensive behavior. And it takes a lot of work to train people as behavior agents. You have to have more of that in your school. But if you have the right things in place and refocus, what our priorities are. Like I tell people, don't call me and talk about the mask anymore. I don't want to hear about that. I want to hear about how we're doing with the achievement gap. That stuff is all a political, just to take us off focus. I'm serious about, if we're really going to make a difference with all of what we're saying, there has to be a huge commitment, a lot of patience, and really become agents of compassion. And you have to have more. All of us who are on this call, we're always engaged. We're always trying to find and make a difference. But now that even with COVID, your children are dying off. When you start dying off with COVID because of politics, we're using and we're killing off children. Now we're starting to mess with our future. And so we really have to make a commitment that we're really going to change. And like I said, it takes a lot of work. It takes leadership in your different functions. And that's what I tell people, when the shooting started happening, I said the city, the county, where is the city or the county's community resource center? Parents, some of them have to work 3 or 4 jobs. They don't have family members who may be committed to taking the children. Some people don't want to be bothered with children now. So how do we as a community help and take our money? We waste money on a lot of other things that we could put money toward centers, that when a parent has to work at night, at least they have a place they can go. We got to start doing better with investing in our children. That is just something that's just over my head, is why we have not gotten to that point. And it continues, and it's getting worse.
Sue, I also want to mention that education and the rest of them, they are fine, but a lot of these problems are products of our public policy. So we need to identify some key public policies in our community, either to advocate for or to get rid of.
Yes, real.
Erin, that sounds like your area. Yes.
Yeah, but this is why something like this is so important, because it's people who work directly on certain issues who know much more than someone like me. I'm not in Florida, I'm in Virginia, and I tend to be more nationally and globally focused, but these issues are somewhat universal, or the elements of them can be applied across different places. And so talking like this at a local level and trying different solutions out in different places, affecting local policy or turning to grants in another city, or looking at a past national policy win, these are ways we can all try to find the best solutions locally and individually, and then come together and move this forward as a country and as a world. Because the problems that are happening with children in Florida, that has some unique things to Florida, but also has a lot of things that you will find in New York, in California, in Virginia, outside of the United States. So I think I absolutely agree. The policy issues are a huge thing that if those change and we can affect them, that's an immediate relief, an immediate win. But it's organizing and deciding which ones to really go for.
This is one reason why I feel this getting a system of action planning, what I could call seed ideas. You know, I can think of something that might make this situation better. So that Diyonne, what you're talking about, you know, have a conversation with the kids, and they can tell you what is needed, right? The children pretty much can say, this is what we really need to make this community and our city and county.
Sue seems to have frozen there.
Oh, am I back?
You're back.
Yes.
Okay. That what we're trying to establish is a way that young people can kind of identify the problems that they want to work on. And then we provide the local and the global networks of support to help them do that. And being able to work in the local community is essential. And that's why we're working on this building community in a changing climate so that we can identify the problems and work together on the solutions.
Exactly. And, you know, I wanted to just react positively to one thing that you said, Diyonne, about finding those points or those places where young people or children in school excel in something or are turned on by something. They're passionate about something. Because I used to be a math teacher. I taught in the New York City public school system from you know, 6th through 9th grades. And I could always find something by knowing the kids, I could relate to them in terms of math, something that they were interested in. If I took the time to understand what the kids were interested in, I could relate that to math problems that were coming up. And I always feel like it would be great if one of the main goals of our educational system would be to generate students who are self-motivated to learn. And if that was a primary goal of our educational system, then forget the problems with reading and math, because if kids are eager to learn about something that they're already passionate about, then they have to learn how to read and how to analyze things and all of that stuff in order to learn more about what they're into. So I just wanted to say that, you know, based on what you were saying there.
With that thought, Rick, there's you know, some cultures that when the young person is old enough to say what they are interested in, they're connected with the individual who does that thing. You know, so if a young person wants to be involved with music, they don't say, wait until you get a college degree.
Right.
You know, they've got the kid playing with the musician then. And if we think about the old stories of how children play, you know, at what age do they start doing what the grown-ups are doing? And if we could, you know, if somebody then, you know, they want to be a musician, but then later they want to be the person taking care of the food, or somebody that wants to be the medicine man. We have got, and that's what I have seen with some of the homeschooled kids, is that their parents have found a way to find out what it is they're interested at that time in their life and make the other subjects fit in. And I just am really upset with our current education system that has micromanaged and separated the subjects and separated the individual from the community. And then they get a college degree and we pat them on the back and say, okay, now go get involved in the community. Well, they're already isolated. It's no wonder our college kids don't vote or don't, I don't know. I could go on about that. I see Diyonne rocking her head off.
Well, one thing I
Yes.
must mention that Alachua County Public Schools, this one program I thought was very interesting, and I'm hoping that they continued it. It was in the maths. It was with math, and it might have even been in algebra. It was or just the maths, and they had young people who were like who it was someone like a game, like you're doing too, like games and things that they were doing partially online, partially in the classroom and everything. And they had these teenagers who were college students who were working with them. And it got so that the math, what is it? What do you call it? The math study curriculum person said when they invited them over to the school, they were like rock stars. These were math teenager college students who were like rock stars. And I just thought that was a black guy, a young black guy, white guy, I think it was a young lady. But that type of energy is something that the schools can do. And that they recognize that. It's just sort of keeping it and sustaining it. So they're trying.
Exactly. So Sue, do you want to kind of bring it all together, and then I'll make a few announcements and we'll finish up.
Okay, so am so grateful to all of you for bringing your perspectives into this conversation. And I hope we can continue and make some specific plans to carry this forward. We're using the Blueprint for a Better Future with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And we're going to use that to help build Martin Luther King's World House in Alachua County, Florida, where we want to help everybody learn to live together in a world that works for all. And so we're hoping to grow our community-wide climate conversation to action program to serve Alachua County, other counties in Florida, and our global networks of support. So thank you all for being here, and we'll continue this conversation.
Yes, and I just want to make a few announcements before we finish up. The next Welcome to We show will be in November. It's usually the second Tuesday of each month, so that would be I guess it would be November 9th, I believe. I and we invite you to join me with my birthday bash and benefit on October 20th. I use it as a shameless way to generate funds for We the World, do a little bit of fundraising, for the nonprofit. And there's a link that you can go to, which is givebutter.com/ricksbday to register. We have our We Campaign for Women monthly networking meeting. That'll be the day after my birthday on October 21st, Thursday, also at 6 p.m. Eastern time, hosted by Karen Palmer and myself. And in general, to learn more about We the World and the We campaign, please go to we.net. It's all about we. And I think today we accomplished our 3 goals, right, Sue? To inspire, inform, and involve you and all of us in creating a world that works for all. That's 3 I's that make a we, so we can go from a me society to a we society. Thank you all so much. This has been a real pleasure.
Good night, all.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.